One of the things I'm curious about, guys, as you know, I've operated a lot in the wedding market in the past, and there's a lot of similarities between the wedding market and meeting and events and incentives, but they're very distinct, they're distinctly different beasts. A lot of my contacts in the wedding industry are telling me that from a sales pipeline perspective, from rebuilding the business, the challenge is an unexpected one in that they've had to move so much from 2020. A lot of it was moved into early 2021 on the expectation that we would be back open again. So they're repeatedly having to shunt stuff back. So actually the pipeline is really busy for 21 and 22, but they're very concerned about 23, 24, 25, because those inquiries that normally would have been there, I mean, I can remember the wedding pipeline had moved to kind of anything between 18 years. Those later inquiries just don't seem to be there at the moment. Now, I can imagine in the meeting and events world, it's going to be a different challenge.
Yeah, it is. But on saying that, we've had conversations with some of our venues that are experiencing something similar, in as much as you've got some people that have moved stuff to later in the year, and they're absolutely chock-a-block. I was talking to one venue, and they said, well, we've got 3 days in the middle of October where we can take a decent piece of business.
Yeah.
But then they're saying, but what is happening is that they've got the conversations with their customers, and they're looking at 22, 23 onwards, when they would normally, because they do a lot of association stuff, and it's like, actually, we're going to sit back and see what happens before we do anything going forward. So yeah, and that in some respects that is being shown in the meetings and events industry as well.
Yeah, well, it's confidence, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. You allude to weddings, Barry. I mean, Kevin, I've been at the sharp end because we've both got kids who were getting married last year. Then they were getting married towards the end of the year, and my daughter's now getting married in September. 4th time lucky. Fortunately, she had the event on the 4th of July, which I think was the first date that came about in England where you can legally get married. So she's had the paper bit, so that's fine. But it's having the big hoolie afterwards that we're all looking for. But I think a lot of it comes down to confidence. And personally, it's easy for me to say I don't work at a venue, but I think I would tend to look at it in time chunks, the next 6 months, the next 12 months. Yeah, of course, 23, 24 will be here a lot sooner than we like, but surely you've got to start thinking about what can I do once we get back into whatever normality will be, 6 months, 12 months hence. And I think there's a lot of patent, as you say, people want to go out and do stuff. A lot of it may be socially driven, events driven, but also for meetings, once people realise it is safe and we can get visitors throughout to move throughout the country and have meetings and conferences, I think people will want to do that again, because Zooms are all well and good, great, but we all know a lot of stuff is talked about socially at the bar and all the usual cliches, but people want to meet and see stuff. So I think for the rest of this year, it'll be what it'll be, and next year, 22, hopefully better. So I think 23 or 24, as you say, we're going to live with COVID, so hopefully by then it will be as safe as it can be. That, I think, is so far ahead, then we really can't see that far ahead. I think we've got to concentrate on the next 6, 12, 18 months personally. It's easy for me to say that because I'm not maybe at the sharpest end.
I think the other thing, sorry, Barry, the other thing that a lot of venues have got to do is to look at what they've got, and how can they spin their facilities or pivot and look at different opportunities. I mean,
that old conversation we used to always have at Stoke Rochford, Kevin, wasn't it? I was like, I've got the asset, I've got all of this space, what we're going to do with it?
Yeah.
To be fair, we came up with some fairly novel and wacky ideas.
Scruffts, I mean, yeah.
A prime example.
Yeah, but we've been talking to a lady called Claire Lee, who you may or may not know from Venue Queen, and basically she was in a situation where her whole business sort of virtually disappeared down the toilet. So she got involved with this, and she started to build this. What she was finding from some of the people locally was saying, well, we can do stuff outside, but not inside. So where can I go? And she started off this website called Borrow My Garden, which I think is a brilliant concept. And basically, she went out to local landowners, and originally it was down in the southeast, but now she's got properties down in Dorset and Devon and Cornwall. Farmers who are just saying, well, you can rock up and use our field, and there's a portaloo in the corner. So it was families who wanted to get together but couldn't get together in a venue, so they go and rent a field and have a barbecue.
Yeah.
So, but now there's quite a few venues. I mean, quite a lot of our venues are involved with it now, because there's the view is in a lot of areas is that when things start to open up, we will be able to meet outdoors for larger events. I'm not saying it's going to be festivals on Glastonbury scale, but you could certainly get 20, 30 or 40 people in a field or someone's garden to have some sort of get together.
Yep.
And that's what venues need to do. That's just one example, is they need to look at what they've got around them, not just what's within the building, but what surrounds them locally.
It's imagination, isn't it? And I think that the good thing with the venues we work with, a lot of them are, well, what's the challenge indoors? Okay, well, have we got grounds? Yes, we can. What can we do with it? What's stopping us? What do we need to do? So I think a lot of it comes down to people and venues' aptitude and willingness to do it and think outside the box. As you've said before, Barry, some venues say, oh, this is what we do. It's maybe a bit tunnel vision. Oh, I can't possibly. We've all had to change. Some of the things we're all doing are out of our comfort zones, but we have to try it. Not always successfully, I'll admit.
I think, as you've been known to say once or twice, Martin, the answer is yes. Now, what's the question?
That's true. That's true.
At the end of the day, it's all about sales and rent. What does the customer's got expectations? Can we match them? Can we exceed them? Can we do it legally and safely? Well, that's where we are moving forward. So why not do things out the box, out the venue, totally in the ground? So lots of venues are coming around thinking, well, actually, why don't we do that? Well, we've never done it. Well, does that mean you can't do it in the future?
Give it a go, try it out.
Absolutely.
Can happen.
Yeah. I mean, a point in case is Rebecca at Madingley Hall, who you probably remember from. Well, you do remember because she mentioned you in a conversation the other day.
Oh, but I thought I could feel my ears burning.
Wants the money back, by the way.
But when things opened up and you could meet sort of, I don't know how many it was out in the grounds, they put a gazebo up in the garden, and they've got a pop-up cafe where the local people can come wandering through, get a coffee, and go wandering off over the grounds. And I think they're doing. Are they the ones that are doing takeaway Valentine's dinners this week?
All right, yeah.
And drop off locally Sunday dinners and food. Yeah. Again, that's something they've never done. So
I've been saying to people throughout this whole situation, it is time to adapt to quite a short-term way of thinking, and it's about survival right now. If you can generate some cash flow, which on top of furlough payments and the very limited grants that have been available out there.
Let's not get started there.
Yeah, most of the people that we're talking to, and ourselves included, manage to fall through all the cracks and don't qualify for anything. Yes. But that's very much another debate. But right now it's about survival. If you can generate a bit of cash flow, even if you break even on something, you've got cash flowing through your business, you can pay another couple of bills, and you're another step forward to actually being able to reopen the doors again. Martin, you mentioned something a minute ago that I wanted to kind of come back to before we wind up. You mentioned Zoom meetings, and it sparked a question in my mind there. What impact do you think? I mean, Zoom's been around for all the other meeting platforms are available. But Zoom's been around for quite a long time. This time last year, I used to be a reluctant user of Zoom. I would always prefer to meet people face to face. Then, like all of us, March onwards, I had to move all of my business on Zoom. And I must admit, I've got quite used to it. I mean, I do everything on Zoom. What do you think the longer term impact's going to be? I can't help but thinking, it's in our nature. We're human beings. We're social beasts. It's something about meeting somebody face to face, sharing a coffee, sharing a beer, having a chat.
I think it's here to stay, Barry. I think you're not going to get rid of it in the near future. And I think a lot of it, sustainably and carbon footprints, is a good thing. Rather than 6, 8, 10 people slacking around down the motorways, etc., for a meeting for an hour, then do it on Zoom. That is absolutely fine. But I totally agree. I think meetings, events are so much more than just the hour, 30 minutes chat. There's so much more to it on the social side, and even the exciting side and the enjoyment side. But I think it's there, and possibly hybrid and virtual. But I don't think you can replace that body language you don't get from Zoom. You know, we're all sitting there, you know, in our pajama bottoms, trying to look efficient, etc. But I don't have any pajamas, but
oh, too much information.
But I think it's here to stay. But I think for anything over a certain number, it doesn't work. I mean, you go into some events and there's maybe hundreds, and there's, you know, it's hard to control a crowd. People, you know, will take over and talk like I'm doing now, not let anyone else. But no, I don't think for bigger, over a certain number, I think it's a tipping point, Barry, that it's not working. But I think it's here to stay. And I like you, I've done occasional Zoom. Yeah, what about it? But it's great, and I think it's really good, really useful. And again, for time differences, for early morning meetings, even for meetings later in the evening and over weekends, you can say, let's get together Saturday afternoon for half an hour. Great. So I think we've got to adapt, and I think it's been a lifesaver, I think, for many of us, to be fair. But no, I think meetings and events, when it's safe and people are confident to do so, hopefully we'll be back.
I tend to agree with that, and I think from talking to bookers, agents, and direct corporate bookers, what they're saying now is that most of their team work from home, so Zoom is the main source of communication. And what there seems to be a bit of a trend where people are saying, well, actually, will we get everyone back into the office? Do we need to pay rent and rates on a property that's, you know, that we can do without? So that's point one. But point two is, it's all well and good having these sort of things, but you need human interaction. So we heard it from a number of people, was that what might happen is that Zoom, you'll have your weekly Zoom meetings, but then once a month you'll get everyone together, a couple of days in a hotel or a conference venue, so you can bash things out, have a few beers, and really get to know each other. Do a team build, you know, all that sort of thing. So on the one end, you've got that. The other thing is it comes down to confidence, because although the bookers are wanting to book the events, their teams have been sitting at home for the best part of 12 months. They've had no social interaction with people face to face. They've had no social interaction, or they've not had any work interaction face to face in an office environment or from a venue's point. So there's going to be those people who say, oh, I can't cope with this. And I think well-being and mental health will have a big impact on our industry, and not just from the customers and bringing people together, but also bringing the teams together. You know, you mentioned it earlier about you open the doors and the staff are standing there scratching their bum because they've forgotten what to do. Yeah.
No, I tend to agree with you guys. I if I look at my own example, I'm not missing all the time that I used to spend in the car. And my wallet isn't missing the 100 quid a week on the tank. So life has changed. Life has adapted. I do miss the social interaction, but I don't miss the driving around to get from one appointment to another. And I'm with you in your vision there. I think the day-to-day meetings, the kind of, you know, weekly sales meeting or weekly ops meeting or such, I think that will be digital moving forward. That will be Zoom, and I think that will make the quarterly get together, where big companies might have had the annual get together, you know, the annual conference. We might see actually 2 or 3 of those events throughout the year. So whilst, you know, venues might lose out in some of the smaller meetings that are happening, I think there'll be new opportunities, because it's in our human nature to get together.
But those smaller meetings, I mean, if the smart venues will either buddy up with a company that can deliver hybrid events, or they will get the IT and the team in-house, so that the smaller meetings, you might get half a dozen people who'll come and have lunch, a meeting room, but they'll need to communicate with the rest of the team, ready for that big event when they all come in. And that will be the bread and butter between the big events. I believe.
It is a really good point, actually, Kevin. You know, I'm sure I have, and we'll all have been in that scenario. If you're in a Zoom call with somebody, and you know their broadband just can't cope. We've all been in that scenario, and I think the days of us all sitting with a laptop in McDonald's or Costa Coffee.
Back in the day.
Now, from my time in hotels, we were notoriously bad at, you know, we'd stick Wi-Fi into the venue, but it wasn't up to the job. You know, I think the smart venues would be doing something now to get their IT really up to patch, because I know if I'm delivering a webinar, you know, particularly if I'm doing a paid for training session with, even if it's 5 or 6 clients, I want to be somewhere that I know has got a reliable Wi-Fi that can deliver a good quality product for my clients, and not worrying whether the kids next door are going to get home from school
and start playing the Xbox or whatever online.
Yeah. You're right, as well as the IT, which is absolutely vital. People expect it quite rightly, not have to pay extra for Wi-Fi as they did originally, but also the sustainability, the green side as well, is for people, as you say, not traveling. So it's up to us, or the venue meetings market, to come up with something novel, interesting ideas for people traveling. Well, do they make a contribution, you know, towards planting trees, growing trees, whatever? So to do something green to make people want to travel and make sure it's, you know, doesn't go against principles, but also exciting packages, flexible packages, something interesting, you know, do stuff that we've not done, or 20 years ago we thought about. So think about things again. Make it that people want to come to your venue, not oh, it's a bit of a drudge, I don't really want to. Well, let's get Barry excited. Let's get him down that motorway. He wants to come. The food's fantastic. It's great. You know, things that make you want to go.
As a trainer these days, Martin, if I if I knew that my independent venue 10 minutes down the road could provide me with a soundproofed room that I can deliver a webinar, can deliver a training session from, with good quality broadband that's not going to cut out, and I can get, you know, refreshments and a bite to eat while I'm there, why wouldn't I go and use that? As opposed to delivering it from the spare, you know, from a home office or the spare room.
Yeah.
But interestingly, we were on talking about something similar yesterday. I was with one of the guys at this virtual exhibition I went to yesterday, and they were saying that, you know, some of the venues, if they had the right agreements, the virtual platform we were on yesterday, when delegates arrive, because you arrive at the front door, you put in your key and you go in. But she was saying we can generate a virtual platform that would look as if they were walking like into Stoke Rochford. So you'd have reception on the left, you'd have the big fireplace in front of you, and all of that. And then you say, oh, well, you can go to whatever room. I've forgotten the names of the rooms, forgive me. But then you could go through to that meeting room, and it would be the virtual, it would be a virtual reproduction of your meeting room. So that, and the smart venues might well want to look at that, so that if it goes from a place where we're having a hybrid meeting, and then, you know, something happens, we have to go virtual, the delegates are still going to your venue. So interesting.
We could spend all day chewing the fat.
Absolutely.
It's been great to spend some quality time with you, and thanks for some really I think there's some great value input there for everyone that's involved in the meeting and events industry, whether you're in operations or you're in coordination and planning. I guess the positive message is, you know, meeting and events in some shape or form is here to stay.
Absolutely.
It is going to be different. We are going to have to adapt, and especially for venues to adapt and seek out new opportunities, you know, they need a bit of help, they need a bit of support. And you know, between what I do and what you guys do, we're very well placed to provide that help and that support. Kevan, Martin, our audience that are watching this just now, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
On the internet, it's www.tridenthospitality.co.uk, or by email, if they send info@tridenthospitality.co.uk, it will come to both of us.
Great stuff.
Or by various social media methods, Twitter.
Yeah. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and soon to come, the Trident Hospitality YouTube station.
Ah, very
So
interesting. Very interesting.
it's up there, but there's nothing on it at the minute.
Well, this interview can go on there when it's.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Guys,
Barry.
absolute pleasure as always. Keep busy, keep safe, and I hope I can actually share a beer with you sometime soon as well.
Oh, looking forward to that.
Kevan,
Kevan, Martin, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Barry.